Well, Bina, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. And yet again, another collaborate. And I'm so excited to interview the collaborates of the Fab Collab book. But I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Henriette. First of all, my name is Bina Briggs, and my company is called Plain Talking HR. I'm a member of Sisters Knock, and that's how I met you, and that's how that's come about. And you know, it is ours. It is ours. So, who am I? Well, as I said, my business is called Plain Talking HR. It's an outsourced HR company. It's been going on since 2009. I had a partner before. For the time, that's how the company started. And then um, she retired about 5 years ago, I think now. I lose track of time, but it is about 5 years anyway. And so the company is mine, and I help SME businesses, anyone who's got somebody, maybe they're just thinking about taking somebody on, to some, companies who've got probably around 150, 200 employees. That's the range I work with, because once that, they start getting more employees over 150, 200, they start thinking about bringing the HR function in-house. So, that it works really well, both sides. But having said that, I have had clients who've got 300, 400, 500 employees plus, but they just like to have me in the background anyway and supporting the senior management team, but also on more kind of on the strategic side, but also more on, like transactional and things that at two levels. So there'll be like the office manager or the HR, kind of administrator or somebody who'll say, I need help, but then the MD will be saying, I need help.
Yeah.
Or, the directors, the board or whatever. So it kind of works really well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, I'm so intrigued always when I hear people's stories about what it is that they do, because it is fascinating that each one of us is so unique and individual, and we've got a passion for different things, which is maybe a good thing because otherwise we'd be all very boring. But what made you decide that, hey, HR is the thing that I'm going to do, and yes, with my partner, we're going to start this business? What made you decide to do that? What is that story like?
Okay, the story is, oh, come on, there's not that many people who just wake up in the morning and then one day they said, I'm going to be an HR consultant. That's my burning desire. Not that many. Maybe now, but I'm very old. So realistically, I fell into HR long, long time ago, decades ago in my corporate career. I was in computing and all that, and then things changed, and got married, blah blah blah, whatever, and it just then became a kind of thing that, okay, I love HR. I don't love cold computer rooms. That's how it was when I was there. And so I automatically kind of gravitated towards people and HR. And then I qualified and I did all that while I was working and so on. And then my corporate life ended, and things change. So that went kind of finished. And so somebody I knew through my corporate life, they were starting the business. That kind of similar story. And so I kind of said, "Oh, can I join you?" Because it came to my time, and we were more or less the same kind of point of time. But she'd already started looking at, having this outsourced HR company called Plain Talking HR. Hadn't started trading yet. And so I kind of joined, I came in onto the scene probably about 4, 5, 6 months later. And so that's what we did. And then we branded it, etc., etc. And that's how it started. So it was one of those things where I had been established in the HR career as head of HR for a large airport and so on and so forth in a UK airport. And so I couldn't see myself at that point in my life, to go back into corporate, when it was time for me to leave the airport. And so it became it was just, and again, I had never thought that I would be a consultant ever. I just never thought about it. But, that's life. And
Yeah.
you just have to go with it. You just go with it and see what happens. And so it just seemed to be happening all at the right time, in the right
Yes.
place. And hey presto, I was a consultant.
That's brilliant.
And that's how it is.
It's brilliant. And I believe, what you shared is so true because somebody said to me once, and she said, just remember, you're always at the right time, at the right place, exactly where you need to be. Maybe you don't see it now, but in the future, you will reflect back on it and you will realize that everything happened for a reason. And I do think that everything always happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the future looked like, but,
No.
hindsight's a brilliant thing if you know what it looks like.
But I believe in that as well.
Yeah.
That things happen for a reason, and people come in your life for a reason as well.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and we all know that. And sometimes it is so obvious that this person is just turned up in your life, and it's just amazing. I think some people are more kind of dubious about stuff like that, but I know. And you said it, we believe in it, and I know for a fact uh, that's what happens, and you just have to go with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about your chapter in the Fab Collab book. Your chapter is called Collaboration is Inherent. And I loved your chapter. When I read through it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of those first chapters that it just gives you that good feeling about the different ways of looking at collaboration. Because I think when we talk about collaborations, a lot of people instinctively think business. But apart from business, you've got so many other ways of looking at it. So tell us a little bit about your chapter and how you see collaboration has kind of shaped your life.
As I said in the beginning of my chapter, that when I was approached, and I thought, yeah, definitely, I want to do it. But then I was going, oh God, what do I write now? And I was just kind of like you do, mulling over, and it just suddenly hit me that I didn't really want to write what did collaboration mean to me, and where's it come from? Where in my life has it come from, or in general? And I just suddenly thought, women entrepreneurs, Sister Snog. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a woman, I'm being asked to write a collaboration book with other women who are part of this, and I thought, hang on, actually, all we're talking about is us women who've done this for centuries, our moms, grandmothers, great grandmothers, we are the collaborators. And the more I thought about it, the more simpler it became, that actually it's not that big a deal. Of course, in business, we think about it as, it's quite a big deal to have collaboration with other businesses, other kind of industries, or whoever. But in the main, in life, I thought, we've always, and that's why I thought it's inherent, because we talk about, collaboration is just working with other people, and kind of having just put everything in together, and you just work with it. And so think about our neighbors, or our teachers, or the community people, and I can only go by my experiences, as always. I can't talk about anybody else. And so it became then a lot simpler for me to write it down, and that's what it is all about.
Yeah. And I love it because you reflect a lot about your where you came from, your
Mm-hmm,
culture, your
mm-hmm,
family.
mm-hmm.
And in your chapter in particular, you talk a lot about those relationships, but also how those relationships have formed certain collaborations within your life. And that has kind of developed you and helped you grow in order to then go and use networking as an example. And
Yeah.
you've joined different networking groups and you formed
Mm-hmm.
relationships, but again also collaborated through those. And do you find that, with your background, that played a role in kind of to where you are now? I mean, it's a silly question, I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think again, it's a case of having, as I said, that's my life, that's the way I am, and it's because of where I come from, my background. I'm Indian, I'm Hindu, I'm a Gujarati, and I was always been brought up with big communities and relationships. And again, the community, the family unit as well. It was just collaborative with everybody. And, we tend to have extended families, but also extended families not by blood, but also just because they're part of the community, and they automatically become your aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. And I'm still dealing with these, like I seem to attract them all very much. And I've become aunties, and I've become an auntie to so many, oh gosh. But, the one thing that really is the fact that in life, I think we attract the right people anyway. We attract them. And networking was something you touched on. And for me in the business here, one of the things that really we had to understand was that my business partner came from the corporate world. I came from the corporate world. We came from really large companies, organizations in the UK. And so we had corporate written all across us and inside us, and so suddenly coming into becoming a small company, just us two, and it was kind of exciting, but at the same time, it was, oh, eek, help. And so one of the things that really was fundamentally something that we had to do and we wanted to do was the fact that you had to network, get your name out there, and start forming relationships. And collaboration is all about relationships. Once you have built up a relationship, a trust, and the feeling that, look, we both can do something together. Even like my partnership with my business partner, that was a collaboration, because she could have easily gone solo, I could have gone solo or something, but that was a collaboration in itself. And then, looking at the wider community, the business community, and we just were doing so much networking. From that, it's just literally come to the point where it's become part of life. So in my personal life, in my business life, it is about relationships. It's about people. And once you've got that, then automatically you will gravitate towards doing something together. And that something together is collaboration, really. It's like, shall we do something together? Whether it is as two people actually working together to have a product together or a service together, or actually clients, you serve your clients. Well, it's collaboration in itself. So I think it's just a way of life, and we just package it slightly differently, and we call it slightly different in both personal and sort of business lives. But it comes down to the same thing: relationships.
And I think one of the things that or two of the things that you actually mentioned there, coming back to relationships, which equally is collaborations. You said the two important things there to remember is, number one, to be yourself, which is hard for a lot of us because that is all a journey. We're all on a journey of discovering who we really are. But also the second thing, which I absolutely love, and I'm so glad you pointed it out as well in the book, is to make sure that you're in alignment. Now, from your perspective, what would you like to share with the audience about those two things?
Well, being yourself, it's very easy. No, maybe for some people it may not be. And I think a lot of people hide. Well, okay, let me retract. You see, there is a saying that when you get to work, when you actually step into your work world, say in an office or building or whatever, the work mask comes on. Big smile. Doesn't matter how you feel. Big smile comes on, and that is your work mask. And then as soon as you leave, you become your normal self, whoever you are, whatever you are. But over a period of time, as you grow, I think a lot of us, maybe sooner or later, start getting that individuality coming through and being proud. And I think it's more and more evident over the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's been recognized that, be yourself. Don't be somebody else. There's so many different phrases and cliches and all sort of motivational stuff going on about saying everybody else has been taken, be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I can only say that this is what you see is what you get. There are no hidden agendas, no nothing. And you see it all, warts and all, because I can't pretend to be somebody else
Yeah.
I might be able to for a little while, but I can't really. And what's the point? I've got to live with myself. So I think you have to be yourself. And I also know that people will love you for who you are. Again, I think you can't love everybody, and not everybody will love you or like you. And there is no reason for it. If you ask them and they were able to answer you honestly, they'll say, Bina, I really don't know why you're okay, but I can't say I love you. We're different people, or we don't see the same things.
Yeah.
So to me, that's fine. But I think most of the time, you will find your people. You find your tribe. You find the people who gravitate towards you, and you gravitate towards them. So it is because you are who you are, and that's it. And being in alignment, I think it's just literally about being, you know, just where you are, what you're doing, just be who you are. And I think that actually helps you in any situation.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. I mean, being yourself is so important. Like I said earlier, that's a journey of discovery for each and every one of us. And I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest things I have had to learn when I started my business in particular is not having to wear a business mask, but just to
Yes.
show up for myself because I came from a corporate world. So you
Yeah,
kind of get
exactly.
taught to wear different masks all the time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest learning curves for me. And I'm exactly like you. If you and I were to sit across a table from each other, I'll be exactly the same person as you see me here talking.
Yeah.
But it took me some time in order to really figure out who I really was. And I think, that is such a beautiful journey if you're open minded to discover
Yeah. Yeah.
who you are, what you're capable of, which I think is a big thing for a lot of us as well.
It is, especially women.
Yes. But the biggest foundation for me in order to make that journey easy was to be in alignment. And that meant mentally, physically, energetically. And I had to bring all of those assets together and really kind of understand what is it that I want to be, who is it that I want to be, and how do I want to show up?
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me because at the end of the day, I just had to be. I didn't have to find the answers there and then. I just had to be. And with that, you just discover so much more. But that's my journey that I just wanted to share here with you because I agree with you what you're
Yeah.
saying 100%.
Yeah. I mean, alignment to me also, I mean, I've written stuff on there, but it just literally being, comfortable in your skin,
Yeah.
in who you are, what you are, where you are. And the two kind of that and, like saying, be yourself. It is really the case of you feel comfortable with who you are, but then you also feel comfortable with any situation. And
Yes.
I'm not saying that, I'd be a master of every situation or I'm fantastic with it. It doesn't matter. We all have anxieties. We all have pressures. We all have, negativity coming through us sometimes or doubts about our own, efforts or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I think once you feel comfortable with who you are, then it's fine because every single thing then will work out itself. Because, as you said, you show up at that point because you're in alignment, you'll be able to respond really well. to anything that is kind of confronting you or
Yeah.
being put forward. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter because you are there 100%.
And it comes beautifully back, full circle to what we shared earlier. Once you know who you are, you're on alignment, then you're in the perfect position to build those relationships and to establish great collaborations.
Yeah,
So it works well hand in hand.
it does, doesn't it?
I'm also intrigued because out of all the collaborators for the Fab Collab book, you're one of the ones who's already written a book yourself before you joined the collaboration on Fab
Yeah.
Collab. And your book is called The Red Thread. Tell us a little bit about the book and what inspired you to write it.
Oh, well, funny enough, I've got a copy here.
There it is. I've
Yes.
got my copy as well. Hold on.
Yes.
Gotta find it. I've got it right here. I'm not lying. Here's my copy as
Ah,
well, which you kind
snap,
of gifted to me.
snap. Well, again, it's kind of a little bit, well, the chapter in here and my book, there is a crossover. There is a merger in there, and that is that I've talked about women and strong women and relationships. The book is all about my mum. Well, it was supposed to be all about my mum and her story, and as a very strong woman. And as I said, I've spoken a lot about my family and my background and so on. And one of the things that my mum passed away in 2003. It will be 20 years this year. It just seems like gone like that. And it didn't happen straight away after mum passed away in October 2003. But then I think about 4 or 5 years after that, and suddenly I was feeling I did really feel her absence, and it took me a long time. But somewhere down there, suddenly I just thought, I need to write a story. And, it was just kind of, oh, okay. And then that took a long time before I actually, again, summoned the courage to say, I do want to write this book. I don't care what happens, who reads it, who doesn't. Because before it was an internal dialogue about how can I write, because it's about an abusive marriage and how my mom came out of it. And this, you've got to remember, this was back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and about an Indian woman and standing up, and from a very orthodox, really very a kind of restrained kind of families. And, I mean, if you think about any Orthodox, kind of, so it was a difficult subject, and I was taking a really long time thinking, what if I write this? This person is going to get offended, that's going to get offended, or they will never talk to me, or whatever. I thought, well, what the hell, you know? It's sorry, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. But then it took a long time before I found the right thing, the right person. And we talked about it right at the beginning. Things happen when they're meant to happen, um, at the right time, at the right place, with the right person. And so, I got introduced to Mindy, who was the midwife, but also the publisher as well at the time. And I had been introduced to her a couple of years prior to that, but nothing came out of it. And then it took ages and ages, and I just gave up. And I was still looking at other publishers, but it just wasn't fitting in properly. And then suddenly, it happened during COVID. And I saw something come up on Instagram, and I was following Mindy everywhere. Sorry, I'm almost stalking her, on social media. And I saw something from her. I responded, and I don't know what happened, but it was meant to be. She came straight back, and then and the following day we had a meeting. I have to laugh now because we arranged it, and I said I can only talk for 10-15 minutes at the most, because I have a hair appointment. And I remember it was July I think it was June or July 4th or something, but it was the hairdressers and all those had just opened up after COVID, and I really needed, my hair done. I
A
said,
very important date.
there's just no way I'm missing that in. And it happened, but
Yeah.
it is a story about women, strong women, about relationships,
Yeah.
about collaborations, communities. Yeah.
It's a beautiful book because I've read it as well. It is, you've written it so well, and it's so heartwarming as well. And
Thank you.
it's very, very well written. And yeah, it's always sad that some of those stories tend to be true, but I think it's a great inspiration for other people to read it, to see that actually, you know what, if they are in similar situations, there's always a way out.
There
Um,
is. There is.
so definitely. So what we'll do is we'll put a link to the book as well down
Thank
below
you.
in the show notes, because I think it's definitely also another good book to read. But oh my gosh, Bina, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast as a collaborate for the Fab Collab book and telling your story as well, getting to know you a little bit better. It's just been so lovely. And I think you and I can talk forever, because every time
We
you and I have
can.
been together, we just end up talking and talking. But I really appreciate your time coming onto the podcast. And what we'll do for those of you listening, if you want to reach out to Bina, all her details will be in the show notes, all her social media links, her website,
Yeah.
etc. So you can connect with her there. And then, of course, the Fab Collab details will also be in the show notes. So if you haven't
Yes.
got a copy of your book yet, you need to go and get it. But apart from
Definitely
that,
do.
do it, yes. But apart from that, Bina, thank you so, so much. I wish you a
Thank
lovely
you,
day.
Henriette.
Until the
Thank
next
you.
time, we're going to see each other very soon again.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.